Hi, welcome to Rules Challenge. My name's Carter Maxwell, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the game Maracaibo. I actually had quite a few games in the pipeline ahead of this one, but a friend of mine wanted me to teach him a game that we could play together on Board Game Arena, and this happened to be the one he picked. And looking at the weight of this game on Board Game Geek, it seemed a little high to me. There don't seem to be a lot of concepts that people have trouble grasping, but there is a lot of iconography, and maybe that's what people tend to struggle with. And I think I did find a number of things that enough to common rules mistakes to be able to make a rules challenge out of it. For those of you who are new to the show, this is just basically a test of your understanding of the rules. But instead of just asking you questions from the rule book, it's like you're watching me play a real game, and then I just periodically stop and ask legal or illegal, and you have to guess whether what you saw leading up to that had been done correctly or not. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the challenge. As usual with my videos, the game's already well underway. We've played 2 full rounds. We're starting the 3rd round, and you can see everyone's in Havana right now, and Black is our first player this round, so she'll go ahead and make her move. She's going to sail 3 steps from Havana to Santo Domingo. She first wants to make a delivery, so she needs to discard a card with corn. So she'll put that into the discard pile. Now she can move a disc from her shipboard, so she'll take this one from the 3VP spot, and she'll put it on the city tile. Now she can gain 1 influence and take 1 village action. And she'll take that on the England track, moving from 1 to 2. For her village action, she wants to buy a card, and she sees one on the display that she likes. That's the Mercenary, and that card costs 7 doubloons and requires putting an assistant out on space 6 of the map. Since the card is coming from the display, she'll pay a 1 doubloon penalty, so instead of 7, she'll pay 8. Then she'll move a figure from her shipboard, and she'll put it on space 6 of the map, and she'll move the card from the display, and she'll put it into her own play area. Now she'll gain any immediate effects on the card, and this is showing that she gains the synergy token with the medallion on it, so she'll take that. Her hand limit is currently 6 cards, and now she's down to 5 in her hand, so she'll draw a new card from the deck, and she'll refill the display to wrap up her turn. We're starting with something pretty basic here. The cards on the display are only available to draw into your hand as part of the refilling your hand at the end of your turn. They aren't available to be bought as part of a buy a card action. You can buy a card from your hand, you can buy a card from your planning area, or you can buy a card in the prestige building row. That's it. Nothing from the display. I guess Black does deserve credit for remembering to pay the 1 doubloon when you take a card from the display. She was just doing it at the wrong time. Now it's Yellow's turn, and he's going to move all the way from Havana to Martinique, and he'll take the long route to use up a full 7 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yellow wants to take a village action, and since he moved 7 spaces, he can take 3 of them. For the first one, he wants to buy a card, and he's going to buy this Master Builder. That card costs 6 doubloons, so he'll pay that. And now he can put that card into his play area, and it doesn't have any immediate effects to resolve. Before taking his second village action, Yellow wants to take a couple free actions. He's going to put a couple cards into his planning area, so he'll put Conquer Village in there and Council. Now for his second village action, he's got 1 card left in his hand, and he's going to discard that to gain 2 doubloons. Now for his third village action, he wants to buy a card from his planning area. Conquer Village would normally cost 15, but he does have this Master Builder in play now that reduces the cost by 1 doubloon, so he'll pay a total of 14. So he'll pay that to the bank, and he'll move the card into his play area. That card has a couple immediate effects that we need to resolve. One is it comes with a synergy token with a house on it, so yellow will gain that. And that synergy token triggers a couple more effects. Looks like yellow will gain 2 on the income track from this card and 2 from this card. So he'll move from 16 to 20. And the other effect on the card is that yellow gets to place an ownership marker in a village. He wants to place one of Spain's ownership markers, so he'll take one of those and he'll put it over here in Martinique. To wrap up his turn, yellow will draw back up to his hand limit, which is at 4. So he'll draw 4 cards just from the face down deck, and that'll end his turn. Yellow did a lot on that turn, but everything was done correctly. Just a few general things I want to point out. You might have noticed that yellow had taken 1 village action and then placed a couple planning cards as a free action, and then took 2 more village actions, and that's fine. You don't have to just like take your free actions at the start of your turn or end. They can be taken at any time during your turn. So it was fine that he kind of slipped those in while resolving his village actions. And also, people sometimes wonder if you can put more than 1 card into your planning area on the same turn, and that's fine. I mean, they truly are free actions. You can put new cards into your planning area as much as you want, as long as you have room for them. Also, you might have noticed that when yellow discarded his hand to gain 2 doubloons, he only had 1 card left, and that's fine. You don't have to discard a full hand of cards. It's just whatever you have left, as long as you have at least 1 card left. I also want to point out, just to avoid any confusion, that yellow didn't put this ownership marker here because she had to, because her ship was here. That was just a coincidence. She could have put it into any open village. She just happened to put it here because blue has the advanced combat ability unlocked, where if he puts a ownership marker here, he would get 6 doubloons for that. So yellow's just trying to make it a little tougher on blue. All right, now it's blue's turn, and he's going to sail from Havana to St. Kitts. And that'll be 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now he wants to fulfill this quest. That will require paying 1 combat point. So he'll mark that on his shipboard, moving from 1 to 0. And now he can gain the benefits of that tile. It shows that she can gain 2 doubloons per compass and remove 2 discs from her shipboard. She has 2 compasses, 1 built into her shipboard and 1 from the quest hunter, so she'll gain 4 doubloons. And then she'll remove 2 discs from this space here that makes it easier for her to gain village actions when she sails. She's done with that quest tile, so she'll turn that over. And now, since she had moved 6 spaces when she sailed, and she's unlocked this ability that gives her 3 village actions when she sails 5 or more, she's going to take 3 village actions. For the first action, she wants to buy a card. So she'll buy the Master Builder from her hand. And that will cost 6 doubloons. So she'll pay that. For her second village action, she wants to buy another card. And that'll be the Pinnace from her planning area. Normally that would cost 12. With the Master Builder, that's a -1 for a cost of 11. So she'll pay that. She'll move that into her play area. That card has a couple of immediate effects. One is she'll be able to gain 2 victory points for every 2 assistance. She currently has 1, 2, 3, which will gain her 6 points. So she'll mark that, moving from 11 to 17. That card also gains blue 2 steps on the victory point track. So she'll mark those. 1, 2. With her third village action, she'll discard the remaining 5 cards in her hand. She gets 2 doubloons for that. And draw 6 new ones since her hand limit is 6. And that'll end her turn. Blue made one really big mistake on that turn. Remember that fulfilling a quest is not a free action, it's a main action. And you just get one main action on your turn. So when blue fulfilled that quest, she should not have gotten any village actions after that. You have to choose one or the other, quest or village action, not both. Now it's green's turn, and he's going to move 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, to Santo Domingo. He's unable to deliver there, so he'll go ahead and take the city action. He'll be able to gain 1 influence and take 1 village action. For the influence, he'll take that on the England track. For the village action, he wants to buy a card, and he'll buy this privateer raid in his planning area. That'll cost 9 doubloons and 2 combat points. So he'll spend the 9 doubloons. For the combat points, he's only got 1 left on his track, so he'll spend that, and then he'll spend one of the figures from his shipboard for the second combat point. Then he'll move the card to his play area and resolve its immediate effects. It looks like he gets to gain 3 steps on the doubloon income track, and if he has the anchor synergy token, 3 steps on the victory point track. And he does have that synergy token. So he'll move up 3 on the doubloon track, 1, 2, 3, and 3 on the victory point income track, 1, 2, 3. He doesn't need to refill his hand, so that'll end his turn. Green made a mistake when he was paying the 2 combat points for this privateer raid card. Recall that he had spent 1 combat point from his track and then spent a figure from his shipboard for the second combat point. That's not legal. You can only spend these figures for combat points when you're engaged in actual combat. So you can't do it in cases like this where you're just paying for a card, or if you're taking an assistant action that requires spending combat points. And this one was pretty tricky. I actually wasn't sure of the answer until I found a comment online by the designer, and he confirmed that you can only spend these guys for combat points in combat. All right, we've come back around to our start player, Black, and she's going to sail just 1 space forward to San Juan, and she's going to take an assistant action. Her assistant in San Juan is the mercenary, and he'll allow her to gain 2 combat points, so she'll mark those. And then advance her ship forward 1 to 3 spaces. She'll use the full allotment, moving 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3 to Cumana. The card also says that she gets to perform another main action. She wants to perform a village action, and since she moved 3 with this move and 1 at the start of her turn for a total of 4, she's going to take 2 village actions. For her first village action, she wants to buy a card from her planning area. The shipbuilder will cost 8 doubloons, so she'll pay that. And then she needs to place one of her figures out on space 10 of the map. So she'll do that. Then she'll move the card into her play area and resolve any immediate effects. That card will give her the synergy token that has the axe and saw on it, so she'll gain that. Also, she has a card in play that advances her 4 on the victory point income track when she gains that synergy token, so she'll mark that now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now she wants to take a free action and complete a career goal. She just obtained her 3rd synergy token, so she'll take the advanced one here. She'll gain that figure, and she'll gain 3 victory points and 3 doubloons. So she'll mark those victory points, moving from 9 to 12. She'll gain the 3 doubloons, and her hand is already full, so that'll end her turn. The mistake this turn was Black taking 2 village actions as if she had moved 4 spaces. If you recall, she had started in Santo Domingo, moved 1 space, taken an assistant action, which allowed her to move 3 more spaces, and she considered that as having moved 4 and thus took 2 village actions. But page 21 of the rulebook clarifies that you can't combine those 2 moves to calculate your total for your village actions. So when determining how many village actions she got here, that should have been based on having moved 3 spaces, not 4. Now it's Yellow's turn, and she's going to sail to Maracaibo. So that'll be 1, 2, 3 spaces. And she's going to do a delivery there, and that will require a sugar. So she'll discard a card from her hand with a sugar. Now she can move a disc from her shipboard. So she'll take one from the 6 victory point slot, which she had unlocked earlier. She'll place the disc in Maracaibo and then take the city action, which will be a combat. So she'll draw a combat tile. This tile shows that if she chooses to fight for the nation in 3rd place, she'll get an additional 3 combat value. Looking over the map, there are 2 French ownership markers, 2 Spanish ownership markers, and just 1 English one. So she'll opt to go ahead and fight for England. That'll give her a combat value of 7. She's unlocked a combat action. She's going to use that one, but she's just going to spend 2, so she won't be able to displace a cube. So she'll gain an influence. She'll be able to place a cube in a village and gain doubloons for any assistants that are there. She'll place an England cube in Bluefields. And she has one of her own assistants there and a green assistant. So she'll gain a total of 4 doubloons for that. And we'll move her up 1 influence in England. She has 5 combat value left. So now she's going to take this action and use 4 of it to gain an influence and place a cube in a city. She'll place it in Port Royal, which will gain her 2 more doubloons. And she'll mark 1 more influence in England. She has 1 combat value left. She'll add 1 to that. And then take this action here that will allow her to gain 1 influence. So she'll mark 1 more in England. She'll move the combat tile to her shipboard. Her hand limit is 4, and she's down to 3 cards. So she'll draw a new card, and that'll end her turn. Everything was done correctly this turn. One thing, though, that I do want to point out about this unlockable combat action, people will sometimes wonder if this is indicating that the cube has to be placed in a village with an assistant. And no, it could just be an open village. This is just indicating that if there is an assistant or assistants there, you would gain doubloons, depending on, the amount depending on whether it was your assistant or an opponent's. This might be a good time to mention just a general rule that you can never have 2 ownership cubes in the same location. So let's say if green later on has unlocked that combat ability and he wants to place a cube here to get that same doubloon benefit, he would have to spend the extra combat points to displace England before he can place a new cube in there. All right, now blue's up. And she's going to sail just 1 space to Martinique. And then she'll take an assistant action there. She's going to choose to use her innkeeper, which will give her 3 doubloons. So she'll take that. And then she can gain 2 victory points per assistant. She has 3 on the map. 1, 2, 3 for a total of 6 points. So she'll mark that, moving from 17 to 23. And then, for having not used her other assistant in Martinique, she'll gain another 2 victory points. 1, 2. Her hand is full, so that'll end her turn. One thing I want to point out from this turn is the fact that blue had 2 assistants in that same location. Sometimes people are unsure about that, but that's allowed. But you can't use both of them in the same turn. So when blue arrived in Martinique and decided to take an assistant action, she had to decide to use one or the other of them, but not both. Note though that she did receive 2 victory points for having skipped the other assistant. And in fact, if she had arrived there and taken a village action and not taken an assistant action, then she would have gotten 4 victory points for having skipped both of them. You know, this turn reminds me of something else that's worth mentioning. These 2 assistants happen to come from different characters, but many of the cards have multiple copies, and there's nothing preventing you from putting multiple copies of the exact same card into play. Now it's Green's turn, and he's going to sail around to Maracaibo from Santo Domingo. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. And he passed his assistant here along the way, so he'll gain 2 victory points for that. 1, 2. Then he'll deliver a sugar there. So he'll discard a card with sugar on it. Then he'll move a disc from his shipboard, and that clears the 3 victory point space. So he'll mark those points, 1, 2, 3, and he'll place the disc, and now he can take a combat action. He'll draw a combat tile. On this tile, if you choose the nation in first place, you do have a penalty in combat value, but each nation has 2 ownership markers on the board, so that's not an issue here. Looks like the best deal for combat value is France, but Green wants to solidify his hold on Spain, so he's going to choose that. So that'll give him a combat value of 4. He wants to be able to take this combat action at value 6. So he's got the combat value of 4 already. He's going to spend 2 of his figures to make that 6. So now he can displace an ownership cube, gain 1 influence, and place a cube in a city. So first he'll displace a marker. He'll remove this French marker from Santo Domingo. And now he gets to place a Spanish marker. And rather than take doubloons, he'd rather get the victory points, so he'll place it down here in Maracaibo. And that'll give him 2 victory points. 1, 2. He'll take his 1 influence in Spain. He'll move the combat tile to his shipboard. And he needs to redraw back up to his hand limit of 6. And that'll end his turn. Green's mistake was that in a single combat action, he displaced an ownership marker in one location and then placed a new one in a different location. When you're taking one of the combat actions that involves displacing or placing new cubes, the entirety of that action has to occur in the same location. I should clarify, though, that doesn't mean the entirety of your turn has to be in a single location. As we saw in Yellow's combat a couple of turns ago, if you take more than 1 combat action, then those separate actions can be taken in separate locations. All right, now we're back around to Black, and Black's going to sail 2 spaces to Maracaibo. There's no room for Black to deliver there, so she'll just go right into a combat. She has a couple cards in play that give her combat points when she's about to start a combat. She gets 1 from this, 1 from that, so she'll mark those. Now she'll draw a combat tile. With this tile, if you choose the nation that's in first, she'll take a -2 on the combat value, but both Spain and England are tied at 3. Black will go ahead and choose Spain, which will give her a combat value of 5. She'll spend all 5 of the combat value on this action that allows you to gain 2 influence, and then she'll just save all her combat points this turn. So she'll move up 2 on Spain, 1, 2. She'll move the combat tile to her shipboard. Her hand is full, so her turn is done. That turn was pretty simple. About the only thing I would highlight from that is the distinction between points on your combat track and the combat value you get from the combat token. The combat value from the tile is use it or lose it, But points on your combat track can be saved as long as you like. Now yellow's up, and he wants to sail all the way up to space 20 here. So he'll have to take the shortcut to reach it. He'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And since he passed one of his assistants down here on blue fields, he'll gain 2 points for that, moving from 7 to 9. Now he's going to take an explorer action, and he'll be able to advance his explorer 2 spaces forward. He has a pioneer card in play, so that gives him 1 extra step, so he can move his explorer up to 3 if he wants. And he will move the full allotment, moving 1, 2, 3. And since he just crossed this blue barrier, he gets to take a bonus. A green passed it earlier, so yellow's the second one to cross it, so he'll take 2 victory points. Moving from 9 to 11. And then for the space he stopped on, he'll gain 3 victory points and 3 doubloons. So he'll mark those 3 points, 1, 2, 3. He'll take the 3 doubloons, and his hand is full, so his turn is done. Yellow did something on this turn that the first time I encountered it, I had to look it up to make sure it was legal. Recall that he had started the turn in Maracaibo and then sailed through Port Royal and then up to space 20. And he never went through the blue field space, but he nevertheless took the 2 victory points for having skipped his assistant there. But that's correct. You don't actually have to pass through the space where your assistant is to get the 2 victory points for skipping them. You have to move your ship from a number lower than the space they're in to one that's higher. So yellow had started the turn in space 11 and ended up in space 20. So, went from a lower number than 16 to a higher number than 16. That's considered having skipped that assistant, and you get to take the points. Now it's Blue's turn, and she's going to sail 5 spaces from Martinique. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Cartagena. And she wants to deliver there, so she'll need to discard 1 corn. So she'll do that. Now she can move a disc from her shipboard, and she wants to take one of these, so she needs to confirm that she's unlocked 4 advancements. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So she'll go ahead and move this disc. So she'll place the disc on the tile, and now she can take the city action, which is explore, moving 2 spaces. She'll move her explorer, 1, 2. She crossed this red barrier, so she'll take this bonus now. She'll move up 1 space on each nation's influence track. So France, Spain, and England. Now she'll gain the bonus for the space she stopped on, which is 1 combat point. So she'll mark that. She'll place a card in her planning area. And she's down to 4 cards, and her hand limit is 6, so she'll draw 2 new ones. First, she'll pay 1 doubloon and take this card from the display. And her second card, she'll just draw from the deck. And to wrap up her turn, she'll refill the display. Often when people cross this red barrier for the first time, they're unsure how this bonus here is supposed to work. And Blue did it wrong. You have to choose 1 nation and then gain 3 influence in that nation. You don't distribute the 3, 1 on each nation. One thing I want to mention about the Explorer track, it didn't relate to this turn, but I have noticed that people tend to make this mistake a lot. When you reach the end of the Explorer track, don't forget to take your free village action. That just seems to be something that's really easy to forget. This looks like a good place to wrap up the challenge. I hope you got something useful out of the video. If you think I got something wrong or just have a question, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Again, I'm Carter Maxwell. This has been Rules Challenge, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.